One of the interesting laws mentioned in this weekly parsha is that the Kohanim, the priests, could not serve in the temple when they drank wine. And the way the Torah phrases it is that they're not only not allowed to serve in the temple, but the Torah uses the word Lehorot. Lehorot, the word today means basically to paskin halacha, to decide halachic issues. But in the more general sense, Horah, of course, the root of the word is the same as Torah. It's known that the word Torah in the Torah itself, whenever the Torah uses the word Torah, it's almost always in a particular type of group of laws. For example, the Torah could say, these are the Torah of Yoledet, the Torah of a woman who gave birth. So that's going to be in the next parsha. It's going to say that it's the Torah of something. Torah of for instance, a Mitzorah, a leper. A Torah of some specific animals and etc. in this week's parsha. That's how our weekly reading ends. Zot Torat ha-behima v'ha'of, etc. This is the Torah of animals and birds, etc. What are the permitted and forbidden species of animals and birds? So the word Lehorot, of course, from the same root, means to tell the Torah, I guess, to show the way, to show the right application of the Torah. Lehorot. In a more narrow sense, it's used today as a paskening shaila, to ask when people ask specific halachic questions. So you need a more Horah. That's what the rabbi's diploma says, that he's more Horah. He decides halachic issues. So the verse therefore must mean that the Kohanim are not allowed to serve in the temple when they are drunk, but also any kind of Horah, any kind of decisions, any kind of Torah teachings have to be done in sober state. And in fact, that's halacha. This is actually halacha in Shulchan Aruch, that a rabbi who drank a certain amount of wine, a revi'it of wine, is already not able to decide any complex halachic questions. Only something that's really simple he can answer, but not something that requires a certain deliberation, a certain waiting, right? What does a posek, a rabbi who is an arbitrator, usually translated into English? It's hard to translate the word posek, but many of the rabbis are called poskim, meaning they're the greatest rabbis of the generation, usually decide halachic issues based on some precedents in the Talmudic sugyas, but not not only. They basically try to understand and weigh all the issues and eventually come up with a halachic decision. Of course, in our day, Horah is needed for all kinds of new questions that arise in medical ethics, in electricity, and all kinds of other technological advances that need to be decided. For instance, if one is opening the refrigerator on Shabbat, if there's a lamp inside, there's a problem, because when you open the door, the lamp lights up. When you close the door, it turns off. So you're not allowed to do that on Shabbat. That's pretty clear. But what about the motor, the refrigeration part, that doesn't always turn on whenever you open the door, but it can turn on earlier because you open the door and hot air entered? The thermostat will make the refrigerator turn on earlier. Is that a problem? Is it not a problem? So those are the types of discussions. There are a lot of disputes about these types of issues that are based on, of course, the precedent from the ancient sources, but they're trying to apply it to today's realities. So that's the Horah that's forbidden to be done when a person drank. And by the way, Rabbeinu Bachya on these verses discusses in general this whole idea about how important it is for people to be sober, not to drink too much. The Torah doesn't fully forbid alcohol. Of course, for instance, for Muslims, they don't allow any alcohol at all. Judaism usually takes some middle road. We don't try to go to the extremes and forbid all alcohol, except for the Nazir that takes on himself Nazirut. He cannot drink any wine or anything that comes from grapes. Even though it's not always clear whether it includes other alcoholic beverages, but we're not going to go into this. Certainly with regards to Horah, one is not allowed to be drunk. It doesn't matter if they drank wine or some other alcoholic beverages, they cannot paskin when they're drunk. So the regular person, we're not forbidding that person to drink wine. In fact, sometimes wine is actually an element of certain mitzvot like kiddush and havdalah and certain other laws. During the wedding, we have wine as the element of the Sheva Brachot, for instance, the 7 blessings that a bride gets. So we don't fully forbid wine, and wine is something that can be used for good, for a certain amount, certain amounts of wine, not too much, and then a person, until they get fully sober, cannot pray, cannot paskin halacha, as I said, until they completely get their mind becomes lucid again. That's a very important principle. Wine often is compared to the allegory is used to explain why wine is used for certain mitzvot, and that is if you have, let's say, a person who doesn't have legs or who is lame, and he hears beautiful music, and then there's another person who cannot hear anything, he's deaf, but on the other hand he has the legs. So this person who hears the music, he wants to dance, but the deaf person is not going to dance until you give him a little bit of wine, and he kind of starts jumping a little bit. So he took on his shoulders the lame person and is now moving around as the music is going. He's also moving because he's a little bit drunk. So what's this parable for? The body, of course, doesn't feel the spiritual pleasures, and the soul does. So on certain days like Shabbat and other situations when we want the soul wants to feel the spiritual pleasures also to express it, but the soul cannot move without the body. So the body gets a little bit also physical pleasure, the drinking, a little bit of wine, that makes it somewhat more prone to be happy. So a little bit of wine is okay in certain instances, but drinking too much is always bad. And of course, the book of Mishlei, the book of Proverbs, has a lot of verses about that. And Rabbeinu Bachya brings some of these verses, how important it is not to get drunk, and how bad it is to drink too much. And on this, I'm going to end for today. And if you like this video, please press like and please subscribe to our channel.